Education, they say, is the key to the success of every organization or country. Africa as a continent has embraced this concept, and so therefore most of its countries has a fixed compulsory basic education for its citizens. Ghana as a nation has divided its education system into three parts. That you have the basic education, that from basic 1 to basic 9. Then move to the senior high level from SHS 1 to SHS 3. Then come to the tertiary level, which has a minimum of 4 years and 6 or 10 years if you want to pursue the postgraduates, the MPhil, and the professors. So before I introduce you to my wonderful guest, today we are talking about the theories of the classroom versus realities of the job market. You see, most of the time students go through all this education system, that from right from the basic school to the tertiary level to attain a degree or call themselves graduates. But the big question is, how does the theory that they are learning in the classroom relate to the practice of the job market? I'll say in our local dialect, when you are employed, the manager will say, for school nyans and to na bra na encho ejuma nani so. So now we will talk to I'll introduce you to my wonderful guest. We have today we are blessed, you have two Samuels here. So you have right from my right, you have Mr. Twum Samuel. He's a product of KNUST. He works at the Away Technologies. He's a network optimizing engineer. Also on his right, you have a lecturer of Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. He mostly teaches in the KNUST School of Business, and he goes by the name Dr. Samuel Awuni Azinga. You are welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, it's part of our responsibility to continuously extend the frontiers of knowledge. So we are here to continue that. Yeah.
Okay, so Mr. Awuni, I'll start from you. Please, can you brief us on your educational background, right from the basic school to the SHS and the tertiary? Then we move on to Mr. Twum Samuel.
Yeah, I think I'll start from my bachelor's. Yes, I'll start from my bachelor's. I did my bachelor's at the University for Development Studies, where I studied integrated development studies. Integrated development studies is a community-based study that looks at how we can mobilize community resources and then come out with community profiles so that we can be able to identify their needs and then come out with plans to direct them as to how to mobilize resources to pursue their agendas. And then I did my master's program at the KNUST. Yeah, and then after that I continued with a PhD also in KNUST. And then just after the PhD, I got opportunity to work as a lecturer. Yeah. Yeah.
Comparing myself to Dr. we are small boys, so probably we'll start from secondary. I did general science in Opukwari. Then I got the opportunity to do telecommunications engineering in KNUST. And after KNUST, we got into working. So I'm still with Huawei Technologies as a network optimization engineer. We are still moving on. All right.
So that's a brief background of their education. We move to Dr. Awuni again. And please, are you familiar with the O-level system of our education?
Yes, I would say yes because I benefited from that system. Our time we did 4 years middle school. Yeah, but when I was in the middle school, I exited somewhere in year 2 through what we call common entrance, which got me into the secondary school. Then I did 5 years, and then when I did the 5 years, I exited into training college to be trained as a professional teacher. And when I was being trained, I also did what we call the advanced A-levels, advanced level learning, where those days when you move from that level, you move into the university. So I'm quite familiar with the secondary school system. I think the basic difference between that system and the senior high school system we have now is just a question of the number of years that you spend in school, actually. Because we used to spend 5 years in school, so by the time you get to final year, you grow your beard and all that. Yeah, so it's comparable to, I mean, we at that time by the time you got to final year, you were almost at the age of those of you in the university today. You get a point. And then you go to do the sixth form. The sixth form meaning the CPA in the secondary school. So we had secondary schools that had sixth forms as well. So once you do the 5 years, you move to the sixth form. And then you move to upper sixth, which is the 7th year. And then you then write what we call the advanced exam, what we call the A levels. So when you write that exam, that then qualifies you to go to the university. Yes, so that is how that system worked. So it means that you do 7 years right in the secondary school, and then you do 3 years in the university. Those days, university used to be 3 years. Yes, making it 10 years. You know, that is how it worked. I don't know whether you need more information.
Please, I would like to ask, comparing the O-level education, that's the olden day education, to our current education system, do you think which one is the best for us?
Talking about which one is the best, I'm not too sure I'm able to find an answer to that. But I'll only look at the differences. If you look at educational reforms that took place in the late 80s, around 1987 thereabout, one of the reasons that were adduced at the time was the fact that the number of years spent in school was too long. You get a point. And besides, the focus of the syllabi at the time was basically more theoretical, and that we needed to move beyond that to look at things from the practical perspective. And it was on the basis of that the junior high school system was introduced. And if you look at the content of the junior high school syllabi, it concentrated on how to train people to acquire certain basic skills. You understand? But like, normally we'll come out with very beautiful policies, but when it comes to implementation, normally we are lacking. So this system was put in place, but these junior high schools were created, but the tools that were supposed to be installed for people to be able to learn and acquire practical skills were not put in place. So basically the theoretical kind of learning continued. You get a point. So in actual fact, the objectives of the reform were not totally achieved. You understand? On the part of shortening the distance in terms of the number of years spent in school, fine, we have succeeded in doing that. But in terms of giving practical skills to people from the basic level, so that if you, after maybe senior high school, has no academic capacity to continue, then you could easily get a job to do based on the skills that you have acquired. You get a point. We didn't succeed in doing that. Yeah. So, but if we are talking about quality, for me, having taught at this level, interacted, interface with students, I will not say that the A-level system was more qualitative or was of more quality than what we have now. Do you get a point? What I would say is that the system that we have now is such that there is a lot of burden on students, and there's some changes the path of society. For example, now we have social media which has come into our midst. You get a point. So if we compare the demands of our system now in terms of social life and compare that to those days, there's so much demand on students these days, so that if you are not smart enough to be able to manage your time, you might be found lacking academically. Do you get a point? Yes. So I don't think that the number of years spent in school is the problem, but it is the kind of system that we have now, the kind of demands that we have on students and all that. Yeah. So basically that is it. Because to add to that, when I was in secondary school, but then the junior high school system was introduced, and some people were part of that system, while the last badges within the old system also ran concurrently. So different badges met at the senior high school level, some from the junior high school stream and others from the middle school stream. And actually when we met and then they were running their stream, we were also running our stream, we got to final year and we all sat the exam. Basically the same exam. People still made it. You understand? Yeah, people still made it. But of course, our country has faced a lot of quality deficit going forward because of the fact that the reforms were not implemented to its logical conclusion in terms of increasing quality of teaching providing the logistics for instruction to be effective and all that. Yeah, so maybe that is where we can say maybe the new system, because of the way it was poorly implemented or it's been poorly implemented, that is affecting the performance in terms of quality, but not necessarily maybe any zero dichotomy between the two.
Thank you, sir. So one advice to the students who are watching, Dr. Azinga said, you have to be smart enough so that you can succeed academically. So we move to Mr. Twum. So Mr. Twum, from the submission of Dr. Azinga, he said when they were implementing, it was not fully implemented, that the logistics for practical works were not implemented or were not given out. So you are an engineer, so you went through the theories, let's say the theories. So let's take a look at this theory. He said you have the Ohm's law in physics, you have the law of demand and supply, you have the golden rule in accounting, that's debit the receiver, debit credit the giver, and you have principles in engineering and all other stuffs. Please, when you were employed in Hawaii, were you taking through training sections, retraining sections, and other sections, so that you workshops, seminars, so that you be okay with the work you are going to do, or you sent what you learned in the university there?
Actually, I was lucky enough. I got employed into my field of study. I did telecommunication engineering, and over Huawei, we work for MTN. We actually the ones handling the MTN network. So I was working in the field I studied. And the truth is, I had the theoretical knowledge, but what Huawei does is they pick this from national service, and through our national services we were just going through training. So the theory, what we knew in Kenya University, wasn't quite enough to push us straight into the field. We had to get trained before. All the Ohm's law and everything, they were not. I will not say they were not important. They were very important because they broadened our mindset and everything, and it was easier fitting. With little training, we actually got into it and we got moving on. So I think with little training, we were able to fit in. Yeah.
So this question is for the two of you. Is that what are the expectations from managers or employers, from employees who are right from the university? Let's say the undergrad students who are going to seek for employers or managers are expecting from them.
Okay. I would say we were quite not lucky to complete school at the time. Maybe doctor completed school, because around that time doctor completed school, most of the companies were public institutions. I remember at that time we had Ghana Telecom, so from moving from a government institution into a government was a little easier. But right now most of the companies are private, and the private man is only looking for his profit. So he's actually not thinking about what he can give to you. He's looking at what he can get from you, how you influence his work so that he gets his financial gains. Yeah, so that one has been a major problem for us. So if you are not smart enough, I entered Huawei with a lot of guys. But if those who were not smart enough to study very fast, they had to be booted out. So right now, most of the companies, their major focus is their profits. So if you are not good enough to fit, he has nothing to offer you. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, this question of what industries demand. Generally, those of us in academia, we look at certain critical skills that we need to train our students on to be able to fit in the job market. But normally the argument has been made that universities, per their course descriptions and the kind of programs that they run, are gradually more or less producing graduates who are not making impact when it comes to what they are supposed to do in industry. So we are not, the academia industry linkage is quite poor and it's becoming blurred as we go on. But for me, I think that perspective, as much as it makes some sense,